Hello guys, it's Robbie here and welcome in this new recap where I'm going to break down GU. And once I finished the breakdown about GU, I'm gonna start another recording where I'm going to break down EU. So actually there was a possible entry opportunity in London session on EU and also on GU. And let me start with the markups first on GU. So what has happened technically on the 4-hour time frame? It was a little bit strange situation because probably you have already seen the weekend forecast from Marcel. If you haven't, then I am really recommending you to watch it. So for London session and also for New York session, technically both directions could play out. So we could look for longs, we could look for sells too. And let's start everything with the 4-hour markup. 4-hour markup on GU. So what has happened on the 4-hour time frame? There was a really valid, really valuable 4-hour demand area that has caused the 4-hour swing breakout structure to the upside. But as you can see, this 4-hour demand area, which was technically a decisional on this bearish movement, because this is the daily and sorry, it's a bullish leg, daily bullish leg. This is the high point, and this is the low point of the daily bullish movement. So you can see that there is a decisional zone in this daily movement, and there is an extreme zone, and price has just reacted on this extreme area. However, this decisional zone has been flipped by this 4-hour supply area with a really nice volume candle, and price has just reacted on it. But before this supply zone mitigation, price has reacted on the extreme 4-hour demand area, and also price has swept insane amount of liquidity into it. Technically there was liquidity. I have marked the liquidity as you can see right here, but technically this whole downside was liquidity built up for this extreme area, which was the origin of this whole daily movement to the upside. So yeah, because of this demand mitigation, and there was a 15-minute change of character right here, and also the NFP news has caused bullish movement to the upside. Technically we could look for longs, but at the same time we could look for sells. So it was a bit tricky and also a messy situation on GU especially. EU was a bit clearer, but I will talk about EU in the next recap. So yeah, technically that's all based on the 4-hour time frame. So because of the supply zone mitigation, if 15-minute has changed character to the downside, then technically we could look for sells for a limited uh, time, because of the higher time frame trend, which is still bullish. So the daily is still bullish. After this extreme 4-hour demand mitigation, we could target valuable 15-minute demand areas, which was somewhere around here on the 15-minute time frame, but we will take a look on the 50 minutes soon. So yeah, because of this supply zone mitigation, and if a 50-minute has changed character on the 15-minute time frame, we could execute sells to valuable demand areas, and also on demand areas, demand zone mitigations, we could target and we could look for long confirmation entries because of this extreme demand mitigation and because of the higher time frame intentions. So technically that's all based on the 4-hour time frame. Let's take a look on the 15-minute, and here we are on the 15-minute markup. So what has happened? There was the extreme 4-hour demand zone mitigation, more than 50% mitigation, and after this mitigation, price has changed character on several places on the 15-minute time frame and left behind an extreme area right here. This extreme area is still unmitigated, as you can see. Price couldn't manage to reverse back to this extreme area and cause a new breakout structure to the upside. Instead of that, price has just built up liquidity right here. This liquidity has been swept by NFP. There was NFP release on Friday in New York session. So NFP has swept all of this liquidity from this region that I did not mark in the markups, but there was liquidity. And after this liquidity sweep, price has just made a new breakout structure to the upside with really nice volume candles, which has been made technically by NFP. And in this case, there was a 15-minute weak demand area that has caused the last recent breakout structure to the upside. And technically, there was the 4-hour supply zone mitigation. There was the last recent 15-minute breakout structure to the upside, but this movement was really hesitant. So it wasn't that clear, it wasn't that volumey that it happened earlier, but there was technically a breakout structure on the 15-minute time frame, and because of the breakout structure, the structural low point that has initiated the whole structure breaking movement to the upside. So because of this low point, technically the 50-minute has changed character, but on the other hand, we were still coming from a really valuable demand area, and price was in a clear bullish order flow, bullish movement to the upside. And yeah, so what happened at this region? Well, after the 15-minute change of character, which is technically was a 15-minute change of character, price was made a really slow pullback to the downside and mitigated a 5-minute demand area. Because of the small percent mitigation of this 5-minute demand area, and I was really sticking to the 15-minute time frame. So because of the 15, because I was sticking to the 15-minute time frame, I was really expecting the mitigation of this 15-minute weak demand area, and also it lined up perfectly with the Euro USD plans. So yeah, there was a 15-minute weak demand area, and there was a 5-minute demand area. Price, as you can see, reacted after a small percent mitigation. It wasn't a 50% mitigation, but price reacted on this 5-minute demand area and started a movement to the upside. But I was really looking for confirmation entries on these supply areas right here. I have chosen this demand supply area right here because it has caused the last recent break of structure to the downside, and there was some liquidity below it on the lower time frame. So this was liquidity, this was a middle of nowhere reversal. I was really expecting a possible confirmation entry on this supply area. However, the supply area hasn't caused that much of inefficiency, but there was still a small amount of inefficiency. In this higher supply area, I was expecting a possible confirmation entry too. However, if this supply area would be flipped, then I would execute longs up to this high point, or I would target this supply area, which was technically the extreme of this whole pullback to the downside. But in overall, technically this movement was a slow pullback to the downside to these demand areas, and I was technically prioritizing longs in this session. However, sells played out, and yeah, so we had a confirmation entry on the last recent 15-minute supply area because price reversed back to there and created a confirmation entry, and I will show you on the trading view. So yeah, also I had plans for these demand mitigations right here. So I was really expecting the mitigation of this 15-minute weak demand where I would wait for confirmation entry and longs targeting this high point, or we could target this liquidity right here that I also did not mark out, but it was there. Or if this 15-minute weak demand area would fail, then I would execute sells down to this character changing 15-minute demand area that has caused the 15-minute change of character after the forward demand zone mitigation. So technically these were the plans for this session. I have sent a message, I have written a note right here that was my buyers are bullish both on EU and GU. I'm prioritizing longs over shorts, but technically both direction could play out because of the forward picture. So there was a forward zone mitigation, there was a forward zone mitigation, 50-minute change character to the upside, 50-minute change character to the downside after the supply zone mitigation. So it was a little bit tricky, not even a little bit, but it was a tricky situation. And also we had a pretty messy price action. It wasn't that easy to read. So yeah, and technically that's all based on the markups. And let's take a look on the trading view on the 15-minute on GU. So here we are on the 15-minute time frame. As you can see, let me put it into full screen. So as you can see, after this 5-minute supply zone, 5-minute demand zone mitigation, let me show you that on the 5-minute time frame. So here was a clear 5-minute candle, and price reacted on this 5-minute candle and reversed the price back to this supply area that I have marked on the 15-minute time frame. As you can see, this supply area has caused the break of structure here to the downside and left behind a really small amount of inefficiency, but it was still there. So after this zone mitigation, after this reversal right here, on the 1-minute time frame, technically there was a possible entry opportunity right here without 50% mitigation. So technically this whole movement was just liquidity creation for the supply area. So there was liquidity take for the higher time frame area. So after the reversal has started from this point, I wasn't looking for longs at this point, even though I was prioritizing longs, and I was pretty sure about the mitigation of this 50-minute weak demand area. So yeah, I am a little bit neglected this 5-minute mitigation. I was focusing on this 15-minute demand mainly. I was focusing on the 15-minute pictures mainly, but to be honest, my bigger part of my focus was on EU because EU was clearer than GU. So what has happened after the reversal from this 5-minute demand? Well, after this reversal, price has levitated back to this 50-minute supply area, made a small percent mitigation right here. And after this small percent mitigation, price V-shape will change character to the downside. There was the last recent breakout structure to the upside, last recent 1-minute demand area. So here was the 1-minute demand. And this demand has been flipped by a really nice flip candle. So it was right here. Technically, this small candle caused the whole character changing movement after the small percent mitigation on the 50-minute supply area. And you can see that I did not set a limit order any of these zones. Why? Because at that point on EU, you will see that price actually at that point somewhere around here. So on Euro USD, there wasn't 50% mitigation, and Euro USD really likes to mitigate 50% of the higher time frame zones. And because of the correlation, so yeah, because of the correlation, I was really cautious with this extreme area. It could play out, but because there wasn't 50% mitigation EU, I decided to bait a bit more with this extreme area, even though I had 9 criteria for the extreme, but I will count the criteria later. So I did not enter any of these zones because of the correlation, because of the missing 50% mitigation on EU. So yeah, for the decision, for the flip zone, I had 8 criteria. There was a missing combined liquidation. So this is the first missing criteria. The second one is the corrective pullback strong pro movement. And the third one was the 50% mitigation. So 50% mitigation was missing. Corrective pullback strong pro movements, it wasn't that clear. And also it was just a corrective pullback on the 50-minute time frame that we were trying to trade in this case. So there was the 50-minute supply, but this 50-minute supply was formed in a corrective pullback. So in this case, the corrective pullback from pro criteria was missing completely. And also the bullish movements were stronger than the bearish ones, especially on the 50-minute time frame. If we are considering after this 50-minute change of character, so you can see that the bullish movements were stronger than the bearish ones, and technically this is just a pullback of this 15-minute movements. So this is just a pullback. And yeah, corrective pullback, strong pro movement criteria was missing in this case, alongside with 50% mitigation and combined liquidation. And 8 criteria is not enough for me in order to enter right here. So the criteria for this zone, for this decision zone, for this flip zone were the higher time frame zone mitigation, liquidity take for the higher time frame zone, inefficiency, and technically we were in a pro order flow on the 15-minute time frame because price has been created lower highs, lower lows over and over again in this bearish movement on the 15-minute time frame. So technically we were in a pro order. So also there was a 4-hour supply zone mitigation, 15-minute change character. And after that, we were somewhere around here at that point in this movement. So yeah, technically it's a pro order flow. Change of character happened, which was a flip in this case. Also, we had really nice V-shape recovery. So price V-shapeably reacted on the higher time frame area. There was liquidity target on the downside. Technically, there was some liquidity on the lower time frame right here. So it was my 7th criteria. And also there was another criteria, which was the not coming from opposite-sided zone. There wasn't any higher opposite-sided higher time frame zone mitigation. There wasn't any opposite-sided demand zone mitigation. And these were the criterias for me for the decisional zone, which was the flip zone in this case. And 8 criteria is not enough for me in order to enter on any possible entry POI. So I decided to skip this decisional zone in this case. And also the reason I decided to skip the extreme area, even though there was really nice liquidity below it, because I was expecting a correlation between EU and GU in this case. And also technically this extreme zone couldn't do anything in this movement. So it couldn't break the structural low right here. Technically the break, the change of character happened from the decisional area, and even though it had liquidity below it, I decided to wait for a bit more, and I was approached this zone a bit more cautious. So yeah, and as you can see, technically this would became a sell trap, this became a sell trap, and after the deeper mitigation, there was the real change of character, which has happened from this area right here. This was the candle that has printed really nice volume, that has caused the change of character after the 50% mitigation. And after that, I have placed the limit order on this area, even though there wasn't liquidity to take at first for the entry POI. So let's count the criteria for this one, and also let me show you the short position right here. All right, I was waiting for a bit more liquidity. Yeah, all right. So here we are on this entry POI where I had a limit order. And let's count the criteria. The first one was the higher time frame zone mitigation, same zone. There was liquidity to take for the higher time frame zone. Also, there was a sell trap in this case that has been swept into the higher time frame zone. So first one, second one, there is really nice amount of inefficiency, and we are in a pro order flow based on the 50-minute time frame. There was change of character right here. It was a really nice change of character with perfect, literally perfect V-shaped recovery. So this is our 6th criteria. There was liquidity to target at this point. So technically this movement was liquidity for the upcoming shorts. And of course, I was also expecting the mitigation of this 50-minute demand right here. That has been, and this liquidity has been built up for this 15-minute demand area right here. So yeah, but as you can see, I would target this low point right here because this is the last recent low point, and I would be more than happy with 8.4 risk reward ratio. So there was liquidity to target, perfect. There wasn't any opposite-sided zone mitigation right here, so it would be my 8th criteria, but I believe there was some 5-minute demand zone mitigation. Actually, yeah, but it has been broken, as you can see. So at this point, this 5-minute demand that has caused the 5-minute change of character has been broken with a small candle break. So technically price wasn't coming from any opposite-sided zone at this point. So it's our 8th criteria. And there was 50% mitigation that I forget to count. So it was our 9th criteria, and 9 criteria was more than enough for me in order to set a limit order in this entry POI. And after this liquidity creation just below the entry POI, I have decided just to go for the decision zone because this huge amount of liquidity was really promising below the entry POI. There was a possible extreme zone right here. So at first I had a risk split entry on the decisional and on the extreme, but because of this liquidity creation for the decisional zone wasn't the combined liquidation in this case for the extreme area, and there was combined liquidation, there was combined liquidation, there was combined liquidation for the decisional area. So it had 9 or 10 criteria. So yeah, technically that's all based on GU, and we can take a look on EU. So technically that's all what happened in London session on GU. it was a bit messy. It was a bit hard to read price action, but it's perfectly fine. As you can see, it turned out as a no tech. Price couldn't fill up the inefficiency, couldn't fill up the volume right here that has lead the price into change of character. And yeah, technically that's all. And let me stop the recording and let me start the another one with EU. So yeah, see you in the next video.